School Days. What happens when you take a harem anime, stuff it chock full of some of the most unlikable and twisted high schoolers in all of history, and completely take away their abilities of basic communication? You get School Days, one of the most polarizing and controversial anime, known for having an extremely dark twist ending that sideswipes the viewer with the power equivalent to one of those inhumanely muscular dudes from Baki. So I asked my channel members to choose the next anime I should watch, and School Days unanimously won. And this anime might be the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my life. And that's saying a lot, because if you've been on my channel for a while, you know some of the horrendous creations that disguise themselves as anime are some of the most incoherent and stupid things that I've ever had the displeasure of watching. And yet, School Days, a seemingly innocent story about a high schooler discovering romance and love, stands atop this terrible mountain. Why is that? Well, let's see. Legitimately, 99% of the problems in this show could have been solved through basic communication. You know, talking, vocalizing the thoughts in your mind so that another person can actually hear and understand what you're thinking instead of them having to play guess what? There's also the fact that none of the characters are likable and they all suck ass in their own unique and special ways. The actual story is somehow both extremely dull and incredibly infuriating. Everyone is an idiot. The ending makes the entire show that came before it absolutely worthless in any way. Everyone is an idiot. Music is mid. The main character is one of the most detestable clump of pixels of all time. And oh, did I mention that everyone in the show is an idiot? Okay, Leo, you're being too harsh on the show, you might think. And you know what? Fair enough. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion on anything, even School Days. But my personal opinion is that this show is the dumbest anime I've ever seen, and I'm gonna explain why. Hello everybody, my name is Leo Hashi, and today I watched School Days, and now you get to watch me absolutely crash out about it. Thanks for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to watch me slowly but surely lose my mind. Also, a huge shout out to my members. This wouldn't be possible without you guys. And if you're interested in supporting me even more, check out my memberships. It helps out a lot. And before anything else, I do want to mention that this show does deal with very, very uncomfortable topics, including emotional manipulation, sexual content involving minors, and very violent themes. So just a heads up for anyone who might be affected by those themes. School Days is a 2007 harem anime based on a visual novel of the same name. The story follows high school student Makoto Ito and his journey to find true love. Is what I wish it was, but it's actually more of an absolute nightmare clown show that takes place in a circus disguised as a high school, and we basically follow Light Yagami from Death Note if he was a gooner, absolutely destroying the lives of every single person around him, including his own. Obviously, a huge aspect of the show is the absolutely out of left field ending that culminates into Makoto being viciously unalived by a real-life iron sword from Minecraft. And then everything else super wonderful and colorful that comes afterwards that I won't describe in detail just yet because I have demonetization phobia. Before anything, I'm gonna say this now. This video is based solely on the anime. I have no idea what happens in the visual novel or other forms of media relating to School Days, and to be completely honest with you, I have absolutely no desire of knowing what happens in those. Feel free to leave a comment about it below though if you want. I'm sure many of you have seen this show way before I have. I've heard about this show in passing before, but I never actually bothered to watch it until now. And to be honest, I missed the person I was before I watched this show. I don't even think I hate this show to the point of vitriol. I think it's more like this show is so stupid to me that I can't even take it seriously enough to hate it with that much passion. Now let's start breaking down why I think this show is dumb as hell. First off, one of the biggest things that I'm going to address about this show is the fan service. It's no secret that I complain about fan service a lot on this channel, and usually I would do it while making a stupid joke or two about angles and physics and whatnot, but this show was so egregious, so criminal, that I can't even really joke around about it. The fan service in this show is absolutely disgusting. First off, everyone in this show is in early high school. They are very clearly not adults. Despite that, this show takes every opportunity to present you with the raunchiest, over-the-top angles of these very young characters, and it's very nasty. Why do we have so many fan service angles and other shit that I don't even dare to describe in detail because they are all minors? minors. You can't be doing this shit to minors, for real. It's not even just the fact that the fan service is happening, because, well, it happens in a lot of animes, unfortunately. You've seen me complain and make fun of fan service any chance I get on this channel. But for this show, it's just the sheer frequency of it happening that makes it so hard for me to even joke about it. Hell, they even make some of this stuff part of the plot or a character's backstory. Watching this show made me feel like someone's gotta be locked up in jail. On God. School Days isn't just a stereotypical anime full of these infamous tropes. School Days is the stereotypical anime. This is the type of anime that makes people who've never seen anime go, ew, anime? You mean that weird Japanese cartoon stuff with a gross and weird happening? So yeah, the fan service in the show is some egregious shit. And this is reason one of why I think School Days is such a dumb show. How do you expect me to take a show that overtly as minors any seriously? There is no artistic merit to this kind of bullshit. Anyways, from here on out, I won't be talking about these topics unless it actually comes up as part of the story. Honestly, I think Drake would love this show. Anyways, with that out of the way, it's time to delve into the story and characters of School Days. I usually recap these shows episodically, but for this video, I'll be doing it a bit differently. First, I'll have to introduce y'all to the characters that will end up playing a part in the story, and then we'll be exploring the relationships and conflicts that come up between these characters and the fallout of those events until we get to the inevitable ending. But before we begin this romantic horror show, let's talk about something that's actually good. Japanese snacks. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Tree and Sakurako. Tokyo Tree is a fun and exclusive monthly snack box packed with Japan's coolest and craziest treats. Each month you get a rare Kit Kat flavor, limited edition chips, noodles, and the latest treats from Japan straight to you. Sakurako is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local makers across Japan. Each box is carefully curated with traditional and seasonal snacks like mochi, doreki, manju, and more, including signature Japanese teas and an exclusive homeware item. Okay, y'all know what time it is. First, let's look at next month's Tokyo Treat box. Every month, Tokyo Treat has a different theme. This next coming month's theme is Konbini Snackin'. Konbini is obviously the Japanese convenience stores, one of my favorite places on earth. Obviously, this is the instruction booklet. It comes with lots of information about the theme, and it also lists out all the snacks and allergy information if you need it. So this box has matcha chocolate Kit Kats, Umaibo cheese flavor, crunchy chocolate almonds, grape and muscat gummies, butter soy sauce potato sticks, mini melon bread biscuits, kimchi kakipi, bourbon chocolate sandwich cookies, ginshari rice ball crackers, wasabi potato crisp, sour paper candy apple flavor, maruchan kitsune udon, baumukuchen Earl Grey cake, retro kompeto, and finally another umaibo tonkatsu sauce flavor. Now it's my favorite part. We're gonna sample some of the snacks. Obviously, we gotta try the butter soy sauce snacks. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. The only two words that come to mind are umami and bussin'. And I don't know if either of those really work with this, but it's really good. Next up, we're gonna try the matcha chocolate Kit Kat. Look at that. It's like half chocolate, half matcha. The duality of the flavors are mixing together. It creates a fusion, you know, a fusion that's so undeniably delicious. It's like, this isn't working. All right, next up, we're gonna try the Mironpan biscuits. It's basically the melon flavored bread. Butter and biscuit for, oh my god. Oh my god. If you've ever had like mironpan, and if you like that, you 100% will like this. Anyways, let's move on to next month's Sakurako box. Wow! This month's theme for Sakurako is the taste of Kyushu, which is like the bottommost region of Japan. So we got Hiran Ryokucha, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's a type of green tea. Nagasaki honey castella, Gyokuro chocolate wafers, Tsuru no sato marshmallow, Amao strawberry crunch. We got a whole thing of kuzukiri, which is a traditional Japanese noodle, but it's sweet. I think it's like mochi. Black sesame taiko, Kumamoto watermelon gummies, Kokuto donuts, Kyushu soy sauce arare, which is a rice cracker, Issa senbei, wasabi pistachios, sakura mochi. Every month, Sakurako comes with a traditional Japanese item. This upcoming month's item is wakasa lacquer chopsticks. Pretty self-explanatory, but very, very nice looking, high quality chopsticks. So you can use this to eat all of your dinners from now on. Anyway, let's try out some of the snacks for this one. First, I want to try the watermelon gummies. These already captured my heart. That's really good. I mean, it tastes like watermelon. It's a gummy. It's Japanese. You can't go wrong with it. We're gonna try some of the Kyushu arare. Ooh. Wow. That's really good. It's like both sweet and savory, crunchy. I mean, it's a rice cracker. It's delicious. And of course, I did try the Chirang green tea. It tasted like green tea, but better green tea? If you enjoy drinking tea, then you will 100% love drinking this tea too. Wow. Anyways, that's it for today's Tokyo Treat and Sakurako box. If you're interested in purchasing one for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, make sure to check out the link in my description and use code LEOHASHI at checkout to get $5 off of your first order of Tokyo Treat or Sakurako. Thank you once again to Tokyo Treat and Sakurako for sponsoring this video. And yeah, let's move on to the regular video now, shall we? Alright, so first, let's meet our cast of wonderful and lovable characters that are all absolutely very mentally stable and really nice to each other. Let's begin with the main character of the show, Makoto Ito. Makoto is a high school student who starts the show as a generic harem protagonist, you know, a gooner who can't even get a single word out in front of his crush without completely butchering every sentence kind of guy. But he ends the show as a villain who just uses the girls around him and tosses them out like they're pieces of trash. He starts the show off as one of the most bland, most whatever main characters in any show. We don't know shit about this dude. We don't know his hobbies, his interests. We don't know anything else other than the fact that he's just a gooner, evidenced by the many magazines with images of women in skimpy clothes shoved under his bed at home. However, over the course of the show, he basically just becomes Gooner Kira, you know, from like Death Note, as he begins to show sociopathic tendencies and not giving a shit about actual emotions behind relationships, only caring about smashing and clapping as many cheeks as possible. I hate Makoto. I'll just say it here and now. This dude sucks ass, and I wanted to punt him across an entire football field while watching this show. And as we go through the story of school days, you'll come to understand more and more why I absolutely despise this soulless piece of trash. Next up, let me introduce you to the two main love interests. The first main love interest is Kotonoha Katsura. She's a high school student who's in a separate class from a lot of the other characters, and she's also the class representative for the student council. She's a shy and soft-spoken girl who seems to have trouble communicating due to social anxiety and various traumas that she suffered growing up that makes her repress pretty much everything. She is someone who definitely needs to be in a relationship with therapy before a relationship with any other human being. She's known in the school for, well, being pretty and I don't even want to say it. She's known in the school for being pretty and being more developed than other people. Let's put it like that way. And that's literally one of the main aspects of her entire character. While we don't find out much more about her history than, oh, the other kids used to make fun of me in elementary school because I was more developed than the other kids, which is something that I'm sure actually happens to people, unfortunately. But with this show specifically, it's so hard to take this backstory seriously when they spend 50% of the show literally, you know, her, but whatever. It's nasty, but it's part of the show. She's at first someone who's pretty easy to sympathize with and feel really bad for, but by the end of the show, it's easy to see that she's probably the most twisted character in the entire show, and that's saying a lot. The other main love interest is Sekai Sayonji, a classmate of Makoto's who decides to sit right next to him throughout the year. She's an outgoing and outspoken girl who is an expert in wearing a mask, just like Dream. No, seriously, it's really obvious throughout a lot of the show that she wears a smile just to seem like she's okay. But a lot of times, she's absolutely not okay with whatever is happening in the show. Although at first she seems like a very supportive friend, it quickly becomes evident that she isn't as selfless as she seems as she begins to contribute to the drama and problems of the show herself until she herself faces an absolutely horrific ending to her tragic story. And now let's go through the minor characters that all end up playing some kind of role in the story. Taisuke Sawanaga is a classmate and friend of Makoto's who just needs to learn how to shut the fuck up. Sorry, I meant he's a classmate and friend of Makoto who is somehow even more of a gooner than Makoto himself. Basically, every time he's on screen, he's absolutely fawning over girls. That's basically his entire personality. He's a character who you'd think would stop showing up at some point, but he keeps showing up in the show and contributes absolutely nothing except being creepy and causing more drama. Setsuna Kyoura is the class representative of Makoto's class and Sekai's best friend. Seemingly level-headed and calm, she spends most of the show looking out for Sekai before completely f***ing her best friend over in more ways than one, and you'll find out more about this as we go on. Hikari Kuroda is another classmate of Makoto's who is honestly so whatever that I won't even bother describing her personality or what she even does, because truth to be told, I don't even f***ing know. She just exists and she ends up contributing to the show drama. The one notable thing is I think she says what I found to be the dumbest line from the entire anime, but we'll talk about that later. Nanami Kanroji is a classmate of Makoto's and a member of the basketball team. She's actually barely involved in the main conflicts of the show, already having an established boyfriend since early in the series, but I'll mention her because she does like one thing related to the main drama of the show, and by the end, she herself is an unfortunate victim of a completely horrible event. Otome Kato is a classmate of Kotonoha's, and she's honestly a terrible person, which, okay, that's not saying much because everyone in this show is terrible, but every time we see this girl, she and her group of bullies are just constantly harassing and bullying Kotonoha, who is defenseless and alone pretty much most of the time. She also apparently likes Makoto since middle school and whatever, who gives a shit. It does come up later though, but she sucks either way, I don't know. Then there's Kokoro Katsura, the younger sister of Kotonoha, who exists in the show. I mean, she does exist. Just know that she exists, okay? Alright, now that we have the main chess pieces all lined up and ready to go, let's dive into the nightmarish story of school days. Welcome to the second semester of Sakakino Academy. We see our main character, Makoto, spot Kotonoha at orientation, just kind of staring at her. Later on, we find out that they actually take the same train line back and forth from school. Due to frequently seeing her on the train, he starts getting interested in her, even though he's just wearing headphones and staring at her the entire time. I mean, sure, it is creepy to just stare at her, but it's not like he's committed any questionable behavior. Oh, never mind. He just snapped a picture of her without her knowing on his phone. What a wonderful start. Apparently, there's a legend where if you take a picture of the person you like and make it your phone background and nobody finds out for 3 weeks, there will be love, which definitely something to believe in for sure. I mean, I know so many healthy relationships that started out with one of them secretly snapping a photo of the other and making it their phone wallpaper without even talking to them once. Anyway, Makoto gets to his classroom and our other main love interest, Sekai, sits down next to him and sees the picture of Kotonoha on his phone, and she asks if this is about the urban legend. He vehemently denies this and the two scuffle about it, while Setsuna, Sekai's best friend and the class representative for the student council, observes the two in silence. Later on, Taisuke, one of Makoto's friends and classmates, talks to him about Sekai and screams, "I like all cute girls!" as he just drools over just thinking about girls and Honestly, this doesn't have much to do with the show. I just wanted to highlight that Taisuke starts like this and only becomes worse throughout the show, but to be fair, that can also be said for every other character in the show. Sekai approaches Makoto and asks to talk alone. As they leave, Taisuke is like, "Oh, they smashing?" Jesus, this is... God. On the school rooftop, Sekai tells Makoto that she befriended Kotonoha during PE class. Apparently, Kotonoha is quote-unquote so cute that she can't make any friends and everyone leaves her alone. Turns out, Makoto is also apparently popular with the girls. Hearing this, Makoto gets angry at Sekai, paranoid that she told someone else about the photo he took, and pushes her against the fence. She says that it hurts, which snaps Makoto out of his rage, and Sekai says that she didn't tell anyone else. Wow, guys, Makoto seems like a really stable and kind and caring individual. Sekai says that she'll help him link up with Kotonoha. She then threatens that she'll tell someone else about the photo if he doesn't let her help, which at this point isn't even an offer anymore, it's an actual threat. So obviously, this whole storyline is already starting out really great, really healthy, and full of consent. Right, guys? Anyways, Sekai plans to eat lunch with Kotonoha and Makoto so she can introduce them to each other. When told about this, Makoto vehemently denies wanting to go, but gives in after Sekai forces him. Back on the rooftop, they awkwardly introduce themselves to each other and eat lunch. Kotonoha, never having been invited to eat lunch with friends before, wanted to make some food for everyone, and she made some sandwiches. Except in classic anime fashion, it's her first time cooking, and she sucks ass at it. However, Makoto, being a simp, ends up shoving all of the sandwiches down his own throat and pretending to really like the food, the same way I love to shove those $5 footlongs down my throat. I mean, how hard is it to mess up some sandwiches, right? Unless you go out of your way to put like peanut butter jelly and tuna in the same sandwich. Okay, well, to be honest, that combination sounds like a war crime. Anyways, during lunch, Sekai goes to the bathroom and leaves the two alone, and Makoto falls off the chair in what can only be described as a bruh moment. It was awkward as hell, but I guess ended decently well, considering Makoto tells Sekai that he's gonna confess to Kotonoha the next day. Makoto confesses to Kotonoha at the train tracks, and Kotonoha says yes. She says that she's also had interest in Makoto for a while. Apparently, she had noticed that someone was watching her on the train, and it was Makoto. I feel like people would usually be a little bit creeped out or disturbed by someone constantly just staring at them on a train without saying a single word, but what do I know? Kotonoha is happy that she got asked out, and Sekai cheers her on. Seems like Kotonoha has a little bit of issues of her own, but hey, at least she's happy, right? Makoto asks Sekai why she's doing this much for him, and Sekai responds that it's fun, and there's nothing more fun watching someone else's love, you know, playing matchmaker and I mean, this definitely isn't like a red flag or anything, you know. Oh, I just like casually masterminding and manipulating the situations of other people's romances, you know. That's just a regular hobby, like building Legos or playing Sims. Sekai says Makoto owes him for the rest of his life, and Makoto says that he'll return the favor no matter what. Then Sekai says, okay, this is the favor, and she kisses him on the lips out of nowhere. Jesus Christ, man, it's only episode 1 and this is already a fucking mess. Sekai's basically like, hey, let me set you up with this girl, and then after that goes well, let me kiss you on the lips to make everything weird and confusing. She then runs into the train and says, good luck on your date, right after kissing this dude on the lips, which I feel like that can't mean anything other than romantic feelings, right? But what do I know? Sekai then begins to cry on the train. Now it's time for the first date. Makoto is reading a dating guidebook as Kotonoha approaches him, because I guess he's supposed to be that much of a clueless version or whatever the character trope is. This date goes really awful. It is painful to watch. On the date, we see Makoto literally open up and read a magazine full of women in bikinis. On a date! What? Bro! Hello? What kind of nasty ass demons gotta possess you to literally consume basically what is softcore pornographic material while you're on a first date? I can't. Makoto is also an expert gamer who spends time playing a fighting game while forcing Kotonoha to watch the entire time. He also gets her a bunch of shit, like too much to the point of being overbearing. Kotonoha gets harassed by an older businessman. Makoto steps in, but he's shaking and quaking. I would be kind of critical of him here, but to be honest, at least he stepped in to defend her though, even if he was hitting bricks, because I've seen some shows where the main character hides when he sees the girl he's on a date with being harassed. Girlfriend. As the date ends, Makoto goes in for a kiss while making this ugly ass horse looking off face, but the train door closes on him before anything happens and he is taken away by the forces of nature. Although to be fair, if I was on a first date and this was the face they made for a kiss, I might also hesitate too, okay? I mean, what the f is this, man? The next day, Sekai yells at Makoto at school, telling him that it sounds like he was just leaving Kotonoha behind during the date and doing whatever he wanted to do. Makoto then brings up the kiss that Sekai gave him before the date, which sends Sekai into a panic. She says that they're just friends, and the kiss was just a greeting, and the kiss for Kotonoha was real? Girl, you can't just kiss someone on the lips and call it a greeting. I'm not going fucking insane, right guys? Like that's just like, that's not how this works. Anyways, Sekai gives Makoto movie tickets, so Kotonoha has an actual good time on the next date. Later on though, Setsuna calls Sekai out for the tickets because it was originally supposed to be so Sekai herself could invite Makoto to the movies, but Sekai just laughs it off. So clearly, she likes Makoto herself, but for some stupid reason, decides to completely disregard her own feelings to set him up with Kotonoha. I don't know, I guess it's a nice thing to do, but considering how the rest of the show goes, I think it would have just been smarter to confess to him first. But anyway, she tends to put on a mask, you know, like Dream. Okay, I've made that joke like 200,000 times. I still think it's funny. She's always smiling even though she's not happy, and we see her dream mask is beginning to slip off a little bit now. Meanwhile, Makoto vows to kiss Kotonoha on the next date. It's time for the second date. At the movie theater, they see a few options they need to choose from. Kotonoha seems like she wanted to watch a zombie movie, but Makoto ended up misinterpreting her signs and ending up choosing a romance movie instead, which seems to bother Kotonoha. And it also bothers me because I'm just sitting here like, why didn't she just tell him that she wanted to watch the zombie movie? What? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I understand I did say she has social anxiety, she struggles to communicate, blah, 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 but this is dumb as f***. It's a movie, man. Come on. During the romance movie, there are awkward, flirty moments between the two, but then suddenly, wham! Scene in the movie. Watching this inspires Makoto to strike today, and he hypes himself up for a kiss, as the movie has a full-on, oh my god, as the movie just straight up turns into not a movie anymore. Makoto begins to freak the f*** out, imagining a bunch of He's thinking to himself, Kotonoha is just embarrassed. She still wants it. Makoto convinces himself as he holds Kotonoha's hand, and she freaks out about how he's holding her hand. Makoto goes in for the fated kiss, but then gets slapped by Kotonoha. Oof. After the movie, the two awkwardly sit at a cafe. Makoto apologizes and explains that Sekai said Kotonoha was just embarrassed, which is why he went for the kiss. He also tells her that Sekai got them the movie tickets. Kotonoha then says, you and Sekai are pretty close, aren't you? And she becomes extremely quiet and depressed. They sit pretty far apart on the train back home, and Kotonoha apologizes before leaving the train, leaving Makoto confused as to what just happened. The next day, Sekai yells at Makoto in the back of the classroom, calling him stupid, and she keeps calling him stupid. Makoto says that he has no idea how Kotonoha feels. Sekai explains that she's just not used to boys, and she's delicate, while Makoto went way too far, way too fast. Makoto then cites the guidebook of romance he's been reading, you know, one of them love manuals. I mean, how useful are those things really? I'm curious if anyone's actually read them, but anyway, Sekai tells Makoto to apologize and make up with Kotonoha. If he has time to read the book, spend that time to actually get to know her, which honestly, facts. Let's take a step back and recognize that Makoto and Kotonoha at this point are still pretty much strangers to each other. The only reason why Makoto likes her so far is because he's attracted to her looks, while the only reason why Kotonoha likes him is probably because she's sadly never been given this kind of positive attention before, instead just getting bullied and ignored by everyone else around her. I'm not the mathematician definition of romance, but if you ask me, this equation can only lead to a very happy, healthy, and fulfilling relationship, right guys? Makoto goes to Kotonoha's classroom to apologize, but gets approached by Kato Otome, a girl who used to be close to him in middle school. As she talks to him, she ends up taking up all his time, and the bell rings, and Makoto is unable to actually talk to Kotonoha until after school. When Makoto asks Kotonoha to talk, she says there's a student council meeting, and she's actively avoiding talking to him, and Makoto says, I won't do anything like that again. I want to try again. I want to learn more about you. Kotonoha doesn't say anything back to this, and she just runs away to the student council meeting. And honestly, yeah, maybe I'm being a bit too much of a petty bitch, but wow, everyone in this show is starting to become unbearable real fast, man. If y'all can't even communicate on a basic level, then I don't see how this relationship will go anywhere for anybody. After the student council meeting, Kotonoha walks out of the school and bumps into Sekai. Kotonoha says that she's taking the bus to go home, and Sekai calls her out for not wanting to take the train because Makoto is at the station. Sekai keeps telling Kotonoha that Makoto is dumb, and she says that you should tell him if you don't want anything to do with him, which is true. You should tell him that, especially after y'all already went on a first date. Nobody is a mind reader for real. Anyways, Kotonoha responds with, don't call him dumb. He's not dumb. He's just too aggressive, showing that she is interested in him, but she just isn't sure how to navigate these things, which is fair. But also, not saying anything and running away is probably the worst choice you can make in a situation like this, in my honest and humble opinion. Kotonoha tells Sekai that she's scared of guys because she's always been more developed than other people. Guys would make fun of her. Sekai then asks Kotonoha if she's ever thought of what Makoto feels or wants. Meanwhile, Makoto is waiting at the station for Kotonoha, and he is approached by Otome, who asks him to go home with her, but he denies her invitation and decides to wait for Kotonoha. Sekai then literally tells Kotonoha, Makoto's always thinking with his other head, so it's amazing he's even able to control himself that much. That's pretty normal for guys. I think he's trying really hard. Which is absolutely horrendous logic, brother. Like, she's basically saying, oh, he's trying his hardest not to put his hands all over you. He's trying his hardest to hold himself back, to not completely violate your physical boundaries. Wow, what an absolute fucking hero, man. A knight in shining armor. Oh my god, bruh. Sekai expresses jealousy over Kotonoha by touching her around various parts of her body, which is another very necessary plot point to the story. Kotonoha says she's envious that Sekai seems to understand Makoto really well. Sekai again denies anything going on between them, even though clearly there is something going on, at least within her mind. But then she's always like, nah, do I really like him though? Nah. Whenever someone confronts her about liking Makoto, which gets tiring real fast. Kotonoha runs to the train station, and Makoto was still actually there waiting. Makoto says he won't do anything she doesn't want to anymore. Kotonoha apologizes and tells him that she wants to understand him more. She says she'll try her best and holds his hand and goes in for a kiss. And damn, 2 kisses in 2 episodes in the same location is crazy. Truly, such a magical spot for some magical moments for this absolutely magical show that has a very happy and magical ending. Anyways, they're dating now. They're officially boyfriend and girlfriend, even though they don't understand each other at all or know anything about each other at all. Because as we all know, the basis of every successful relationship is knowing absolutely nothing about the other person before you start dating them, you know? I'm sure there's cases where that's worked out, but I feel like that's as rare as winning the actual jackpot of the lottery. It's not something you should bet your entire future on. Makoto calls Kotonoha, but Kokoro, her sister, picks up the phone instead. Kotonoha takes the phone back, and Makoto is like, I guess I'll call your sister Kokoro-chan. Anyways, back on the school rooftop, Kotonoha and Makoto are eating next to each other on a bench, while Sekai just eats on a separate bench. Wow, the deep symbolism here is very apparent. Turns out, Kokoro wants to meet Makoto after that phone call from earlier. Kotonoha, after returning to her classroom, gets berated by other classmates, including Otome, because she went somewhere else for lunch and they were assigned to do extra work or something because of that. They figure out it's a boyfriend, and they interrogate her about what he's like, and they're like, oh, so your boyfriend's more important than the school committee? Then they just leave her with a huge packet of work. Wow, I mean, everyone in this show is terrible, but this group of bullies is probably one of the most unbearable units in the entire show. Kotonoha and Makoto meet up at the train station, but Kotonoha is obviously sad. Makoto, noticing this, says that she can tell him anything if she ever needs to talk about something. Kotonoha then asks, we are dating. right? Then the two go in for a hug on the train, but I don't know if it was like a half hug or something, but Kotonoha runs out of the train without saying a single word, leaving Makoto clueless. God, this show is killing me with the non-verbal non-communication between everyone. Anyways, another classmate witnesses this. I forgot exactly who, but Sekai gets a text message saying, hey, something happened between the class 4 girl and your boyfriend. Sekai calls Makoto and gets mad at him. Sekai tells him that if he keeps pushing only the things he wants to do, she'll just get mad. Sekai tells them to apologize. Makoto says fine, and then he just cuts the call. And to be honest, I hate Makoto with a burning passion, but this is the one time where I felt like Makoto actually didn't do anything wrong. He was just noticing that she was sad, and he said that they could talk. I understand that Kotonoha has a lot of trauma and a lot of other issues, but it looked to me like she initiated the hug first in that situation too, so I don't really get why Makoto is the one getting in trouble this time, but whatever. Just defending Makoto makes me want to puke, so let's move on. The next day, Kotonoha doesn't come on the train, instead taking a bus to school to avoid Makoto completely. And at this point, it's just exhausting to me. Look, I understand the struggles of communication. I know I've been saying it like it's so easy, and it's not. I get it. Communication can and is difficult sometimes, and trauma can make it really hard to open up even about simple things. I get it, but I'm sorry. If you can't even communicate the minimum level any human should be able to communicate with someone else, you are not ready for a relationship. I'm just saying. The bell rings and Sekai tells Makoto to apologize as she leaves to go eat with other people. Makoto is like, wait, but I need you with me. Help me. Like, bruh, it's your relationship. Do it yourself, man. What the fuck? He heads to the rooftop and Kotonoha ends up coming up a little later. Makoto asks if Kotonoha is still angry about yesterday, to which she responds, don't worry about it. Makoto says, oh, hey, I can come over today to meet your sister. And Kotonoha is like, that's a little too sudden. What about Sunday? Makoto, despite being told not to be overbearing, is continuing to be overbearing, like, oh my god, what? I bet, let's do a Sunday. I bet, let's do a Sunday. All right, bet. Oh my god, let's bet, let's do a Sunday. Meanwhile, Sekai's friends all say that Makoto is bad news, and she probably should avoid him. They also start talking about the school fair coming up, a talk I genuinely could not give less of a shit about, but it is an important plot point for later on, so I'll bring it up now. Later that night, Setsuna visits Sekai at work, and I don't know if Sekai is supposed to be a bartender, but her outfit is extremely revealing and kind of yucky, considering she is a high schooler. Setsuna asks her, are you really not dating Makoto? And Sekai is like, no, there's nothing going on, nothing! Nothing going on! By this point, this girl is the embodiment of that one meme with the crying guy wearing the smiling mask. Makoto goes to Kotonoha's house and it's fucking massive! Kokoro calls Makoto Oni-chan already. They have a good date together, I guess. I don't even care anymore. Kokoro asks Makoto why he calls her sister Katsura, which is her last name, and she looks away in silence. Because until this point, Makoto was calling her by her last name instead of her first name the entire time. Later on, he asks Kotonoha, is the way to call someone that important? And Kotonoha is like, it is! He then starts to call her Kotonoha her first name instead. She then calls Makoto Makoto-kun as the two begin to laugh and they say, it finally feels like we're a real couple. Jesus, y'all, aren't they supposed to be in a relationship already? And they only finally started to call each other their first names? This relationship is absolutely cooked. As they wait for the train, Kotonoha asks Makoto to close his eyes. She then goes him to kiss him on the cheek. Makoto looks shocked by this. At home, Makoto calls Sekai, telling her about how the day went. Apparently it went well until the show smacks you with the first giant plot twist. Suddenly out of nowhere, Makoto is like, honestly, I'm getting tired of spending time with Kotonoha. I remember when I watched this, I was like, wait, what the fuck is happening? What? This suddenly came out of nowhere, considering this dude was like a bumbling idiot until now, and suddenly he's showing like Kira from Death Note vibes. Meanwhile, at the Katsura residence, Kokoro asks Kotonoha, did you kiss Makoto yet? To which she doesn't respond, and Kokoro is like, I guess you have. Another day, Makoto talks to Sekai on the school rooftop saying, I thought having a girlfriend would be fun, but I can't put my finger on it. Sekai then asks, you guys are having fun though, right? Makoto's like, I don't really know where this sudden 180 character change came out of, but maybe it was just always there and we just didn't know until now, or at a certain point some kind of nasty goon or demon spirit entered and possessed him without us realizing. Who knows? Either way, things start falling apart fast from here on out. Later on the rooftop, Makoto and Kotonoha are just full on making out, and then he starts to grab her chest. She then says she can't do this, but Makoto is like, you said you'll try harder! Like a little spoiled brat. Kotonoha says that she's not ready, which is very, very valid. No one should be pressured into doing things that they don't feel ready for. They both continually apologize to each other, and Kotonoha leaves. Kotonoha then calls Sekai and tells her about what just happened. Kotonoha is like, it's not like I didn't want it, but I'm not ready. I know it's not fair to Makoto-kun. Girl, I mean, if you don't feel ready, f what he thinks, okay? It does not matter. Consent has to come from all sides, not just one. Makoto isn't gonna fucking die because he wasn't able to clap some cheeks or whatever. And on a side note, if anyone ever says that sex is a necessity, then run the f away from that person immediately. Anyways, Sekai asks Kotonoha if she ever plans to do quote-unquote that kind of stuff if the mood is right. Kotonoha describes very specific situations as to what might constitute the right mood, and an example that she tells is a gladiator who just came back from battle on his horse would be really attractive type shit, which in modern day Japan doesn't seem that realistic, but we'll have to see. Anyways, after the call, Kotonoha finds some tickets to a water park and she asks her mother if she could have them. Meanwhile, we see that Makoto has unleashed his ultimate powers as his garbage can is full of used tissues. He's obviously reminiscing on oh god, get me out of this show, get me out of here, get me out. The next day, Kotonoha and Makoto are on the train before the train suddenly shakes and Kotonoha falls forward, and of course Makoto's hand ends up on her chest. But after this accident, Makoto starts whining like, well, you don't want to be touched anyways, right? It's my fault, so whatever, like a whiny little bitch. Like, bro, no one owes you any touching of any kind, so stop acting like they owe you fucking anything. He's upset that she won't let him touch her and whatever. It's just such nasty behavior to me. He's very standoffish and rude this time, and seeing this, Kotonoha decides to not ask him to the water park. By this point, it's pretty apparent that Makoto just wants to smash anything or anyone, and Kotonoha just wanted a ray of hope in her lonely, dark life. Makoto completely gives up even trying to get to know her once she freaks out over not being ready for physical intimacy, which again is a completely understandable feeling, as no one should ever feel pressured into doing acts they don't want to do. Clearly, he doesn't actually want a relationship with anyone at all. Sekai asks Makoto if he's eating on the rooftop, and he says he's gonna eat in the cafeteria. Sekai then says, I hope you didn't rush her into doing things she didn't want to do and make her hate you. And I guess this sets off Makoto because he's like, shut up, in the middle of the classroom, leading the two to have a private conversation. Makoto says that they have done stuff, but not as much as he wants. Sekai says Kotonoha hates aggressive people, or just isn't good with that, and he's probably just going about it in the wrong way. She says, no one would like being touched on the school rooftop out of nowhere. Do it somewhere that won't make her nervous or something. Man's expected a relationship to basically be the fast pass to clapping cheeks, like he's going to Six Flags or something, right? More like Six Flags, am I right? Sekai then drops the most insane offer of all time. She tells him he can practice with her? What is happening? Huh? A special crash course, she says. What? Hold on. What? I need a moment. What? Huh? At first, Makoto refuses this offer, and Taisuke intervenes, asking to go to Makoto's house to pick something up, and Makoto does try to use this as a sort of excuse to get out of this weird, completely out of nowhere offer. But Sekai actually gets really upset about this, and forces Makoto to go along with this plan, which obviously blurs the line of consent very heavily. The two go to a park. Sekai is like, I'll teach you how to do things, but if you really try something, I'll scream. They go to kiss each other, but are spotted by a bunch of kids who are like, ooh, they're gonna kiss. So they end up going to karaoke to get a private room, but there's a camera in the room. Sekai ends up handing Makoto some keys, which turns out to be the keys to the school rooftop. While all this insanity happens, Kotonoha sits in a classroom back at school, waiting for a response from Makoto. Makoto and Sekai return to the school and go up to the rooftop. Sekai is like, come at me, bro, it's training anyway. And I'm not gonna describe the details of what exactly they practice, but it goes pretty far, like way more than just practice. I mean, to be fair, this whole concept of practice is basically already cheating, considering he is in a relationship with Kotonoha. So all of this is just completely wrong and stupid to me, but this is now a standard in school days. Anyways, as he does stuff, he tells her, Sekai, I want you. He then really goes in, pushing her down on the bench as she tells him to stop, but then she tells herself, oh wait, it's just training, this is fine. As he goes into unbutton, he gets a text notification which causes him to stop, and this may have been one of the most uncomfortable anime scenes that I have ever seen, in multiple ways than one. For one, again, they're in high school, so it's like weird how far this is going in terms of animation. And also, clearly, there was a moment where Sekai straight up told him to stop, and Makoto, in fact, did not stop. I mean, let's be real, this whole training thing in general is beyond fucked. First, Sekai pressures Makoto into this situation emotionally, but then she also tells him to stop while he keeps going. Like, this isn't even just a messy moment, this is a full-on consent disaster, where everyone is being gross and predatory in different ways. And the show plays these things off as if it's just part of the spicy drama when it's really not. Makoto asks if they could continue training another day, but Sekai says, no more training, you'll have to do the rest with Kotonoha. This is insane. Like, this is absolutely insane, right? Christ almighty, Lord help my poor soul. Honestly, Sekai seemed like a pretty nice person at first, but then she kind of switches up like, oh, your girlfriend doesn't want to do anything physically intimate because because she's not ready yet, which is a completely valid and understandable situation. Well, what if you practice having sex with me? Oh god. What the fuck is this, bro? Like, right, okay. What an absolutely wonderful solution to an already complex issue. Afterwards, Makoto bumps into Kotonoha, who asks him if he saw her message. He says that he didn't. They apologize to each other, and Kotonoha now invites him to the water park. Sekai witnesses this from another block and looks sad. And of course, the water park episode has a criminal amount of fan service in it. Don't worry, we also get like a crotch shot of Taisuke, who is again an underage dude. Basically, nobody in this show is safe, regardless of who you are. This show will find a way. Anyways, yeah, everyone ends up going to this water park on the same day, and we find out that Hikari, one of their classmates, has a crush on Taisuke, who is just the most exhausting character in this episode. Oh my god. He's basically just screaming so everyone can hear, like, oh my god, women! Ah, I love it! School swimsuits are great, but there's something about bikinis that are so and just absolutely slobbering over this shit like a rabid animal. Kotonoha holds Makoto's hand, to which Taisuke begins to freak the fuck out. It seems like Taisuke has interest in Kotonoha, but he wasn't aware of the situation between her and Makoto. When Hikari, who actually has a crush on him, asks Taisuke to teach her how to swim, he's just extremely nonchalant about it, not even realizing that she might be interested in him, because he's too busy just fawning over Kotonoha's looks. Makoto helps Kotonoha out with how to swim, but of course she trips in the middle of it, and he ends up catching her. They're hugging, blah blah blah. You know, the detail on this is insanely uncomfortable as usual. Sekai sees this and looks upset. However, later when Kotonoha is elsewhere, Makoto talks to Sekai. Makoto is like, was I good during training? I need to practice more, and grabs a part of her, to which I physically recoiled as I watched it happen. He compliments her swimsuit, and the two get into a bit of a verbal scuffle about sizes and whatnot, before Makoto says, I think I like joking around like this with you, Sekai. And Sekai responds with, no, you're dating Kotonoha, right? They eat lunch, and Kotonoha brings her world famous peanut butter and jelly tuna sandwiches again. I don't actually know what's inside of them, but that's what I imagine it to be. Kotonoha is being more and more open with Makoto, clearly warming up to him, but he's pulling back a bit more now. Taisuke then says out loud in front of everybody sitting there, I thought you were dating Sekai. And Kotonoha denies this and says that she's dating Makoto instead. Obviously, this is all super fucking awkward. Makoto looks dejected, Kotonoha looks very happy, and Sekai looks super pissed. Later, when Kotonoha asks him to take him to the deeper end of the pool to practice more, Makoto just says, you should be fine on your own now. Like, what the fuck is this switch up in attitude, bro? The others call Sekai out for being wishy-washy or being unclear on what's actually going on, since they thought she was actually dating Makoto. Obviously, Sekai just continues to be like, no, we're just no, we're just friends, guys. We're just friends. We're just friends. I don't know when the fuck she turned into Mickey Mouse. As they get ready to go home, Kotonoha is becoming more comfortable as a girlfriend, even inviting Makoto over to her place again because Kokoro wanted to see him again. Makoto, however, acts very standoffish and unsure. He gets called out for not looking happy at all, even though Kotonoha is literally inviting him over. Seeing this awkwardness, Sekai drags Makoto out to talk on the side. She tells him to get his shit together, since everyone is trying to help him out with his romance. However, he's like, I didn't ask for any help. Makoto is then like, Sekai, you already know how I feel. Sekai is like, no, I don't. Did you take our training seriously? And she begins to laugh, calling him simple-minded. She says, we can't, because you're Kotonoha's boyfriend. We're friends. Nothing more, nothing less. Just forget it. On the bus home, Kotonoha is asleep on Makoto's shoulder, but he only has eyes for Sekai now, apparently. What the fuck? Either way, he just seems completely uninterested in Kotonoha all of a sudden. As everyone says goodbye, Kotonoha holds onto Makoto's arm, but he coldly just says, I gotta go, bye, without much fanfare. Kotonoha also rushes away. Makoto keeps thinking of Sekai telling him to forget about it. He ends up messaging Sekai, who is laying on her bed in the dark. He asks her if he can call her. Sekai says, you should call Kotonoha instead. Makoto then begins to run as he keeps messaging Sekai, telling her he misses her. He says he can't wait any longer. God, please someone put this man on a watch list ASAP. Makoto ends up at Sekai's station where they meet up. She calls him an idiot and cries as she's like, you're dating Kotonoha, right? Makoto hugs Sekai and tells her he likes her. Sekai responds with, that's mean to Kotonoha. And Makoto responds, she doesn't matter. Excuse me, sir? The fuck you mean she doesn't matter? Of course she fucking matters. You are her boyfriend. Am I the one going crazy here? Sekai asks him why he went to Kotonoha first instead of herself. She helped him because he said he liked Kotonoha and forced herself to do these things despite her own feelings. She calls him terrible as he apologizes. Makoto then is like, I only want to be with you, Sekai, as they kiss. Meanwhile, Kokoro is like, Makoto's gonna stay over, right? To which Kotonoha doesn't give much of a response because she's obviously bothered by his cold behavior towards her. Makoto and Sekai then resume their practicing session. Sekai says, we can't, but they end up hitting home run anyway. Thankfully, the show cuts right off before showing any of this. So this relationship or situationship between Makoto and Sekai advances mad quickly, as we see the two are now just making out at her work. Sekai asks, we're gonna do it again? And Makoto's like, you don't want to? It's practice, right? Yeah. And then Sekai's like, well, I guess I have to then. Like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is this? Kotonoha continually calls Makoto, but he's just not picking up anymore because he's just too busy cheating on her. He literally sees her calling, but just completely ignores it. Like, what an absolute piece of shit. Sekai opens up the windows as Makoto is cooking in the kitchen. I'm not sure whose apartment this is, but it seems like they've just been getting together for a while now. Sekai looks very unhappy about all of this, but Makoto doesn't seem to give a single shit. And in fact, he seems more than satisfied about his current situation, even though he's fucking over two people at the same time, but whatever. The two hug in public as Sekai says, Kotonoha is waiting for you. At the train station, Kotonoha waits for the train and she spots Makoto, who just looks as upset and as uninterested as possible. Literally, this girl is telling him about her family and her life, finally feeling comfortable enough to open up to him more and more about these things. Yet this guy acts like she's just a fly in the room. Unbelievable, man. Meanwhile, Sekai rides the bus looking dejected. But once again, at school, she puts on her mask like, okay, I'm gonna... Sorry, I was gonna make another dream mask joke, but I'm gonna stop. I'll stop here. She once again puts on her fake happy face. Setsuna asks Sekai if she was with Makoto that morning. He broke up with Kotonoha, right? Sekai lies. Yeah, they broke up. High-key, Makoto sucks ass. But also, to be honest, Sekai is also very complicit in this whole cheating situation, so it's hard to feel bad for her sometimes. She tells Makoto they should tell Kotonoha about them too, but Makoto is like, why? Why? Are you fucking stupid? Sekai says it's not practice anymore, and Makoto keeps trying to stop her. She says it's unfair to Kotonoha, and Makoto's like, she'll get mad. And Sekai is like, yeah, no shit. And I was also like, yeah, no shit, she'll get mad. The fuck else are you expecting here, bro? I can't. I hate this guy. What an absolute spineless piece of trash, bro. Anyways, the three are on the school rooftop drinking Kotonoha's tea awkwardly. Kotonoha, finally happy that she has a boyfriend and a friend she can talk to about stuff, is excitedly explaining the tea and how it relates to her parents, as the two are still unable to tell her the truth. Noticing the two looking dejected, Kotonoha asks if something's wrong with the tea. The two respond, oh, it's not the tea. It's not the tea. The tea is good. They ended up not telling her anyways, which, oh my god. Oh my god. Deal with your own consequences, you fucking idiots. Makoto is asked to go shopping with Kotonoha after school, but he rejects her, saying that his sister's coming over today, so he is not available. Later on, though, he asks Sekai if he can go to her place. Makoto nonchalantly tells Sekai that he lied to Kotonoha, and he says, I'll tell her someday, but it'll be so bad right now. You agree with me, right, Sekai? Kinda like coercing her into agreeing with him. It is crazy how fast Makoto became just extremely hateable. It is quite impressive. I didn't know this was possible, but I actually think I hate him more than I hate Kazuya from Rent a Girlfriend, which I also recommend you watch that if you want to compare the two gods of gooning. To be honest, at this point, to me, this show just felt unwatchable because it's not romantic, it's not entertaining, it's just trashy. None of this would be an issue if Makoto just, I don't know, broke up with Kotonoha. Later, Kotonoha sees Sekai and Makoto kissing on the opposite train, but she questions what she saw. It couldn't happen them, right? At this point, every time she sees Makoto, she looks ecstatic to see him, but Makoto continually seems to curve her, which one of Kotonoha's bully classmates witnesses. Meanwhile, Makoto and Sekai both seem uninterested or dejected during every interaction they have with Kotonoha, and shit is falling apart fast. One day after school, Makoto asks Sekai, what should we do today? But he receives a text from Kotonoha. Sekai tells him that she's gonna go home first, saying, you're dating Kotonoha-san. You should go home with her. God. Kotonoha and Makoto walk home together, quietly and awkwardly. A random mascot hands out a cell phone deal for couples, which Kotonoha gets really excited about. Makoto is standoffish as usual, but Kotonoha is like, I'll buy it for you as a present. Makoto is like, it's fine. I'd feel bad if you did that much for me. Okay, dude. You already should feel bad, you piece of trash. What the hell? Kotonoha then falls over and drops all of her stuff, and Makoto just watches this happen. He just stares at it and goes, "Are you okay?" Like, not even trying to help her up or anything. And she drops a bunch of knitting stuff, and she tells him that she wanted to learn how to knit so she could knit something for Makoto. However, Makoto is just like disinterested the entire time, as disinterested as anyone could be. I remember by this point, I just wanted to isekai my arm through the screen to slug him across the face. I won't even lie, bro. Later, Sekai gets a text from Makoto that says, "I like you more." God! What the fuck, man? By this point, Makoto just completely ignores all of Kotonoha's calls or messages. Okay, let's pause for a moment here. You might think I'm being too harsh or too judgmental about some of this stuff, and you know what? That's completely fair. I understand that these people are supposed to be in high school. So yeah, they're young and they have a lot to learn or to figure out about life. They're immature people. I get it. But A, then why are they being so much? And B, we've all been there. I've been there. I've been in high school too, you know. I did some really stupid shit back then too. I was way more emotional and out of control than I am now and didn't really know how to react to certain situations. I've had relationship drama. I've been cheated on too, but I still think that even back in high school, I was able to handle these kinds of situations way better than some of these motherfuckers do in this show. Jesus Christ. I just think some of the behavior is absolute insanity, especially in the later half of the show. And before we go on with the story, I'm gonna quickly solve all of the problems that we're seeing right now, okay? Here's the solution. Makoto honestly admits to Kotonoha that things aren't working out between them and they should break up. Hey, I'm sorry. I don't think this relationship is gonna work out. I don't want to continue leading you on or it'll be unfair to you. So I think the best course is that we should just break up. Congrats! Now Makoto is free to date whoever he wants without dragging this poor clueless girl through the mud and back and completely destroying her mental health and well-being. Wow! How difficult was that? Alright, I understand. Breakups aren't as easy as that, okay? Of course, I'm 100% simplifying it too much. But I do think if you're gonna get yourself into a messy situation like Makoto did here, then it's your responsibility to grow a fucking spine and sort this situation out yourself. Someone's feelings are gonna get hurt regardless. It's already too late. You're already in this situation. I just personally think that it would be so much more fair to Kotonoha to just be honest and break up with her, even if that hurts her feelings or make her sad or make her mad, because in the end, it's better for her to be able to process these feelings of hurt and find a way to move on from this. Makoto, by not breaking up with her, is basically shutting her in to live in this fantasy world that keeps her happy, where she's just forever in love with Makoto and he loves her back, no matter how unhealthy that becomes by the end of the show. And, well, if you haven't seen the show, you'll see how this ends up going. And honestly, bruh, Makoto is just not that worth it, man. He's just not worth sacrificing your sanity and mental health for. He's not that guy. Alright, anyways, let's get back to the story. Kotonoha's mean classmates, including Otome, are talking about boys and confessing and whatever, and Kotonoha continues to look at them. I guess because she overheard their conversations, including the fact that Otome also has a crush on Makoto as well. Kotonoha keeps apologizing, but they keep like gaslighting her and accusing her of bothering Makoto when he doesn't want to be bothered. And guys, I just don't get it. Someone explain to me what the appeal of someone like Makoto is. It's not like he looks like Jungkook from BTS. His personality isn't anything to write home about. He just exists. He just exists there. So what is happening here? Divine intervention? Kotonoha responds to the bullies that she's Makoto's girlfriend and that he asked her out and they're dating. She says that nothing will happen just because Otome keeps attacking her over Makoto. Finally talking back to her bullies a little bit. Nice, I guess. Makoto gets a text message from Kotonoha about being busy during lunch, so she's unable to eat lunch with him. When he sees this, he immediately forwards the text to Sekai as a sign of let's get together and do stuff. This guy is fucking unbelievable, man. He holds Sekai's hands as they both walk out of the classroom. On the rooftop, Makoto is like, just a little bit, it's fine, right? As Sekai is like, we can't, we shouldn't. But then anyway, Sekai confesses her feelings of love to Makoto on the rooftop as Kotonoha approaches the door and overhears this confession. She also hears Makoto say, I love you back to her, which, oh dear God. At this point, the tone of the show kind of shifted completely. It went from messy high school romance to something way darker. Like when Doki Doki Literature Club starts as your basic ass romance visual novel, and then the next moment, a girl literally unalives herself kind of vibe change. Meanwhile, the mean girls in Kotonoha's class seem to be planning some really nasty shit behind the scenes involving the school fair. Dun, 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 dun. Makoto continues to be a selfish little ass bitch ass pussy ass fucking loser fucker as he actively avoids Kotonoha now, despite again never actually breaking up with her. She still thinks they're in a very romantic relationship together, and she's telling herself, I have to try harder. Girl, what do you mean? Bro, this dumbass dude is not worth trying harder for. I can't. Anyways, the planning for the school festival goes into full force. Makoto is forced to help out with the student council, but he's worried about it since Kotonoha is is also part of the student council. Setsuna begins to call him out on his wishy-washy bullshit and forces him to come along. Makoto, entering the student council classroom, literally just avoids Kotonoha even in the same classroom. Later on, Setsuna forcibly takes his phone and blocks Kotonoha's number, saying that it's for Sekai. And yet another amazing decision by a very smart character in this show. The bullies in Kotonoha's class are setting up some kind of video camera for their school festival booth, which does not seem like it's a good thing, and spoiler alert, it's not good at all. But we'll get to that again later. Anyways, at this point, this love triangle is an absolute disaster. This is the worst love triangle in all of history. I don't even like love triangles. I always find them not fun to watch, but this makes me wish the shape triangle had never been invented in the first place. Makoto isn't actually dating Sekai. He's just getting together with her constantly and telling him that he likes her more than Kotonoha, but never actually establishing any sort of committed relationship or putting a full label on it, while he is quote-unquote officially dating Kotonoha with a label and everything. But he just completely avoids her and curves her as if she's just a pest bothering him constantly. Kotonoha then finds out that she's been blocked by the guy who is supposed to be her boyfriend, which obviously really fucks up her psyche in one way or another. Setsuna tells Sekai, who is still concerned about how this is unfair to Kotonoha, "You can't worry about her. Jesus fucking Christ. Just end the relationship and let this poor girl out of this miserable situation. Jesus fucking hell." However, another day, Kotonoha bumps into Makoto, and while it's awkward at first, the moment he begins to stare at Kotonoha's body again, he feels attracted to her again. It's very obvious. We now officially know where this motherfucker's priorities lie. Everyone is setting up for the school festival. Taisuke continues to have a crush on Kotonoha because of her looks, even though we've never seen these two interact on their own at all before this moment, and all he did before this was just fawn over her looks. So yeah, clearly lots of chemistry here. Taisuke asks Kotonoha to dance at the school festival, and Makoto, Nanami, who was that girl in the basketball team just in case you forgot, and Hikari, who had a crush on Taisuke, overhears this. Hikari, heartbroken, runs away. Taisuke tells Kotonoha he heard her and Makoto broke up, but then Kotonoha kind of begins to crash out over it. She walks out of the room and bumps into Makoto and Nanami, who begins to berate her, accusing her of putting your hands on Makoto first, then Taisuke? And even though that's literally not the case, and it's actually the complete opposite of what happened, Makoto just stands there and just makes noises like and doesn't even try to explain the situation or defend Kotonoha in the moment. He just lets her cry and run away. It's not... What? Makoto has so little spine that his body structure is probably the same thing as a slug's. Anyways, I guess he felt bad about being a spineless little because he does unblock Kotonoha from his phone later on. Anyways, Sekai is over at Makoto's place. She seems pretty upset now because Setsuna had told her that Makoto had gone towards talking to Kotonoha again after the incident earlier. Kotonoha actually comes to Makoto's front door and he answers. And she's like, "Oh, my phone was being weird, yada yada yada." And then Makoto's like, "Oh, sorry, that was my phone actually acting weird." Like, okay, y'all both know exactly what happened. Y'all just coping at this point. There's no way you hear, "You have been blocked," and think, "Oh, it must be my phone acting weird," and be okay with that, right? Like, this has gotta be the heaviest dosage of copium physically possible. Anyways, Sekai overhears this conversation, making her unhappy. Kotonoha then looks down and sees Sekai's shoes. She then asks Makoto to dance with her at the school fair, which seems to be some sort of tradition for couples, and she then says, "I'll always be your girlfriend," and she leaves. Sekai, overhearing all of this, gets upset and also runs out to go home. However, outside of the apartment complex, she bumps into Kotonoha, who tells her that it's not fair, and she slaps Sekai across the face. Sekai and Kotonoha then argue. Kotonoha says, "I thought you were a good person, a friend. Please, I'm his girlfriend. Please don't go near him anymore." Girl, he cheated on you like 100 times already. He's really not worth it. It's sad, but I guess this is Stockholm Syndrome in a way. At this point, it's insane to me that nobody is pointing their finger at Makoto. It's like Kotonoha and Sekai are both blaming each other for this problem, but they're completely okay with Makoto continuing to be a terrible spineless human being and playing mind games and whatever. Like, I don't think anyone in this show is innocent and everyone sucks in their own way, but the fact that no one even bats an eye at Makoto is just absolutely crazy to me.
I think I'm going clinically insane.
Later, Sekai and Setsuna are sitting outside talking about the situation. Setsuna mentioned that she doesn't have much time left, and without explaining much, she says she's gonna go ask Makoto what the hell is happening with all this. Taisuke also asks Makoto what the hell is going on between him and Kotonoha, and rather than answering directly or saying any shred of truth, this is Makoto's response. "Well, men and women don't always agree on what a relationship is." Wow. Wow. What a terrible cop-out non-answer. I can't. I'm broken inside. I'm fucking broken. Setsuna is now vehemently against Kotonoha and Makoto spending time together. She confronts Makoto about the situation, who responds with, "It doesn't matter to you." Setsuna responds with, "It matters to me because I'm Sekai's friend. Which one do you like?" "Well, at first I liked Kotonoha, so I dated her, but now I prefer to be around Sekai." And I'm just like, okay, I understand. Then fucking break up with Kotonoha! Hello? I know I sound like a broken record at this point, but seriously, the answer is right in front of you. It's right there. Setsuna tells Makoto to go check on Sekai, who was not at school that day. Makoto goes to see Sekai at her place, and they talk about what happened with Kotonoha and how she knows about their cheating now. Sekai talks about how they shouldn't be doing this and it's wrong, and Makoto responds, "No, it's not!" And I'm also sitting there screaming, "Yes, it is, Makoto! It is a bad thing you guys are doing!" Anyways, Makoto goes in for a kiss and throws her on the table. This is the worst. This is just the worst. At this point, Sekai knows that this is wrong, but she also feels very emotionally reliant on Makoto now, so she's unable to really do much about that. Anyways, after this, Sekai comes back to school the next day, wearing her fake-ass smile as usual. Kotonoha ends up running onto the same train as Makoto, and she's very lovey-dovey with him now. And of course, being the person he is, Makoto gets all excited seeing Kotonoha's parts, and she literally tells him, "I'll let you touch them raw!" When I can't be making this joke, I'm sorry. And then she's like, "Well, I'll let you do things when Kokoro isn't home if you dance with me at the school festival in exchange." Girl, this is insane, right? Like, I'm not going crazy, right? And of course, Makoto agrees to dance with her while only staring at her body. This guy is unbelievable. I swear to God, he has made more eye contact with the rest of Kotonoha's body than her actual eyes. Makoto, as he leaves the train, says, "I suck." And for the first time in this show, I felt a brief moment of peace inside, because thank you for acknowledging it. Jesus Christ, yes, you do suck. You suck major ass. Not that it matters, because this self-reflection doesn't change his behavior whatsoever anyways, but still, at least he said the truth for once in his life. The day of the school festival arrives. Makoto's class is running a maid cafe, while two other classes are also doing cafes, but both with very unique themes. One of them is supposed to be a little sister cafe, which sounds absolutely disgusting, and a zombie cafe, which actually sounds genius. I would love to go to a zombie themed cafe. It sounds like a cafe to die for, am I right? They'll infect you with the chill vibes, am I right? God. I wish a zombie would just bite a chunk out of my ass. Kotonoha's class runs a haunted house, but there's also a quote-unquote break room for couples to use for intimacy. What? What? Ew? Nasty? Hello? This is a high school festival event, right? Is this even legal? Anyways, this part has nothing to do with the overall story, but the zombies, little sisters, and the maid and mascots and whatever, they all face off in a war over trying to get the most customers to their cafe. And this is the only part of the show that I found entertaining, because it genuinely had nothing to do with the main stupid ass drama going on in the show. Anyways, the entire crowd trips and falls over a single banana, ending the great cafe war, and unfortunately sending us back into the actual way shittier story. Afterwards, Setsuna begins to fix the cosplays for the next day, and everyone else begins to help out too. Makoto stays with Setsuna to help out with supplies and stuff. Setsuna tells Makoto that she's actually moving to France after the school fair, which is why she said that she has no time anymore earlier, and she was just worried about Sekai. Setsuna and Sekai had been best friends for a long time, and Setsuna would always be looking out for Sekai when she needed it. Setsuna then says that Sekai always locks herself in her room and cries whenever something goes wrong, and she wants Sekai to be okay before she leaves, and she tells Makoto that he has to be the one to be there for her. Since Sekai now has Makoto, she should be fine, right? Oh god, what an omen. I find this whole thing to be so dumb. For one, Sekai is an individual. She's gotta learn to handle herself, you know? And also, Setsuna hasn't even told Sekai that she's moving to an entirely different country yet. She hasn't even mentioned that, which is absolutely insane to me. Apparently, Setsuna wanted to know that Sekai would be okay before telling her that she's leaving. Bruh. We then see a flashback, and it turns out that Makoto was the one that convinced Setsuna to become the class president because he saw her crying after being made fun of by a few classmates. Setsuna thanks him for the help back then. After they return to the classroom, Makoto falls asleep. Setsuna says, "This is just for my own memory," and she kisses Makoto on the lips? What? what? And Kotonoha witnesses this happen. And also, kissing someone's lips while they're asleep is not only morally questionable, but also literally non-consensual. So yeah, you know, there's that. But I feel like this is nothing new or out of left field for this show at this point. Kotonoha asks Setsuna if she likes Makoto. Setsuna tells her she did all this for Sekai. But then Kotonoha responds with, well, why did you kiss the guy your best friend is in love with? Which, you know what? Actually a really good question. Setsuna's response is, well, I'm actually moving away soon. And Kotonoha is like, that got nothing to do with us though. I'm sorry, they all sound the same. I'm sorry. The next day, Setsuna asks everyone else to handle the classroom for the day as she wanders off on her own, probably bothered by what happened the night before. Sekai and Makoto make cakes together in the kitchen and flirt the entire time. Kotonoha's classmates continue to pester her about work, even though they're not doing shit themselves, but whatever. At this point, it's a standard for these fucks to be as annoying as possible in every scene that they appear in. Apparently, there's a bunch of traditions involving couples during the school festival or whatever. And to be honest, I don't remember too much of the details because I genuinely could not give less of a shit about all of this. But here are two important things of note. One is the bonfire dance. They have a huge bonfire on the last day of the school festival, and couples that dance there are supposed to symbolize some kind of true love or long-lasting love or whatever, some kind of shit like that. And two is that these bully girls apparently set up the break room for these high schoolers to, you know, get together with each other because it's apparently a tradition in the school. It is super nasty if you think about it. And also, is this actually a tradition? Or is this some kind of weird, disgusting bullshit that these weirdos made up? Who even knows? I mean, either way, it's gross. This is just insane. Taisuke once again bumps into Kotonoha and asks her to go around the fair with him. Kotonoha apologizes and tells him that she's still dating Makoto, but Taisuke responds that it really looked like Makoto was actually dating Sekai. Taisuke then apologizes and gets away from this awkward ass situation. Meanwhile, Makoto is literally grabbing Sekai's body parts while his phone rings in the back from texts sent by Kotonoha. Guys, don't forget, he still hasn't broken up with her, and he still hasn't made anything official with Sekai yet either. During the festival, Makoto wanders off on his own, and Otome, the bully girl who's had a crush on Makoto since middle school, decides to ask him out. The two then go around the fair together, talking about their history and whatnot, but honestly, who even cares? Out of every romance in the show, this is the one that I think I care the least about. Later, she asks him to dance at the festival. Makoto is like, you should ask someone you like, and she's like, that's why I'm asking you. However, Sekai comes to get Makoto right before the confession and drags him back to the classroom. Honestly, I personally would not want to be dating someone who I always have to be worried if they'll cheat on me or not, but whatever. Kokoro also comes to the festival and says that
My older sister's really excited to dance with you at the bonfire.
and Sekai is also there and also hears this. Remember guys, way back when Makoto promised Kotonoha that he would dance with her at the bonfire in exchange for other things, you know. Back in the kitchen, Makoto and Sekai talk about the dance. Sekai asks him, you'll dance with me, right? Even though he already promised Kotonoha earlier, so... Oh dear. Kotonoha's bullies begin harassing her, saying, I heard you broke up with Makoto.
He didn't even come see you. He's too busy going around the fair with another girl.
Eventually demanding her to bring Makoto in to prove that they are actually dating. Otome is upset that she couldn't ask Makoto out, and she bumps into Taisuke. They discuss Makoto and how Kotonoha rejected Taisuke earlier, and Otome here gives what I personally find to be the worst advice given to anybody in this show. This is what Otome says. So you let the fact that she's dating Makoto stop you? Are you even a man? With girls, even if you're turned down the first or second time, you have to keep pushing them. And I'm like, girl, hold on. Full stop. Straight up, worst advice I've ever heard. No means no. And that's just how it should be. It is insane. God, I can't even... This is anime from 2007. What a time to be alive. Makoto checks his phone to see that Kotonoha had sent him 20 messages so far, and he runs to go find her, but he's stopped by Otome, who ends up confessing to him on the spot. The two end up going to the nasty-ass break room, one that comes with a complimentary bucket of used tissues. And if you really think about it, no one's actually sanitizing that room ever. Ugh. Yeah, anyway, she pushes him down on the bed and they end up hitting a home run. As this is happening, the other bullies continue to pester Kotonoha about, oh, he was never your boyfriend, was he? And Kotonoha almost begins to actually cry, which makes them leave her alone. And I'm pretty sure the entire time, Makoto and Otome are getting together in the break room. God! Anyways, the dance is about to begin. The big bonfire is lit in the school grounds. Who is Makoto gonna dance with? As Kotonoha desperately looks for Makoto, she walks into his classroom to to see Taisuke. Taisuke tells Kotonoha that Makoto already left with Sekai and that Makoto had betrayed her. Taisuke then takes this opportunity to confess to Kotonoha in the same moment, and he goes in to hug her, which ill. During this gross hug, Taisuke is like, I love you, Kotonoha. And Kotonoha just looks absolutely dead inside, like her soul just left her entire body, and now she's just a walking zombie. She'd be perfect for the zombie cafe at this point. Meanwhile, Mako Trash and Sekai dance together in front of the bonfire, signaling the solidification of their relationship with each other, or so Sekai thought. Sekai asks him, I'm your girlfriend, right? And Makoto doesn't respond. Oh dear. Turns out that Taisuke actually got together with Kotonoha that night. Honestly, really sad. I mean, at this point, Kotonoha must have felt so broken and betrayed that she just went along with whatever happened that night. And after this terrible situation, she comes outside and she literally just sees Sekai and Makoto kissing in front of the bonfire, which I'm sure absolutely destroyed her entire being. Again, I really don't think it would have gone this disastrously if Makoto had just, I don't know, broken up with her ages ago. Starting here, Kotonoha begins to completely unravel as a human being. I think Kotonoha has always had a lot of mental health issues. She clearly doesn't have friends. She's constantly harassed by her other classmates. The first light of hope she sees is Sekai and also Makoto. Her actions and obsession with Makoto does make sense in that aspect. But even still, man, she needs help. First off, get the fuck away from Makoto because this man is clearly not doing your mental health any favors. Anyways, the next day, Kotonoha walks into the train to see Makoto. Makoto apologizes to her and says that I couldn't make it to the bonfire, which is one of the shittiest lies in all of history. Like, man, if you're gonna lie, at least try a little harder, right? I'm not condoning the behavior. It's just like, what the hell is this lie? But it turns out this was enough for Kotonoha because she instantly perked up and felt way better returning to her normal self after hearing this. Like, dead ass, bro. She needs therapy before a boyfriend, on God. Taisuke is in a very good mood after how the night before went, but then when he talks to Kotonoha, she just seems extremely uninterested and uncaring. Taisuke invites her out to Christmas dinner, but Kotonoha says that she's still dating Makoto and she can't go out with Taisuke. She says that Taisuke means nothing to her and that they should just ignore whatever happened the day before. Taisuke then runs up to Makoto, very confused and upset. He confronts Makoto on whether or not he's actually cheating on Kotonoha with Sekai, and of course, Makoto denies it. Makoto calls it a misunderstanding and there's nothing between him and Kotonoha, even though he's never actually broken up with her this entire time, so it's literally still all his fault. He just refused to take any accountability. Kotonoha's bullies continue to harass her, but she continues to deny that she was broken up with. Otome, however, seems strangely standoffish this time. Kotonoha then tries to end this conversation, but the other girls trip her and laugh at her like, I'm sorry, there's just nothing entertaining about watching these little shitty demons disguised as anime girls emotionally torment a girl who has no other friends in her class while she also gets manipulated and screwed over by the worst anime main character of all time. It's not my type of entertainment. While cleaning up the school festival mess, Setsuna asks Makoto about Kotonoha and whether or not he likes her. Makoto tells her he already broke things off with her, which again is a lie. And then he's like, she asked me out yesterday, but I didn't go out with her. You fucking moron! You didn't fucking end it with her! That doesn't count as breaking things off! Setsuna tells Makoto to promise her that he'll only look at Sekai because Setsuna is literally leaving the next day. And guys, remember, she still hasn't even told Sekai yet about how she's literally leaving the country. Jesus Christ! Her character is dumb too! He promises Setsuna everything is over between Kotonoha and him, but then right as he says that, Kotonoha walks up to them. Makoto ends up helping Kotonoha out with her cleaning and tries to say goodbye, but Kotonoha stops him and invites him out to hang out the next day. However, Setsuna tells her no because he's busy with Setsuna. Makoto finally says, yeah, we shouldn't see each other anymore. People are gonna misunderstand. Kotonoha responds with, what are you saying? They're making you say this stuff, right? Sekai is making you do this! Kotonoha then threatens to expose Setsuna's earlier kiss to Makoto to Sekai. As Kotonoha is about to tell Makoto about that incident, Setsuna just goes in to kiss Makoto right in front of her and says, and this is what's happening between us. Kotonoha is like, what about Sekai? And Setsuna responds with, what's happening between us is none of your business. Kotonoha then asks Makoto, what about this morning? And Makoto is just like, well, that was just to apologize. You should just get it already. Kotonoha begins to cry and break down. Makoto tells her that he doesn't like her anymore and walks away from both Setsuna Setsuna and Kotonoha, as Kotonoha just looks completely broken. Here's the thing about Kotonoha. I admit that her lack of ability to communicate clearly was frustrating at times. I found myself getting annoyed about her running away without saying anything, because real talk, communication goes both ways, and even if it might be scary, it can't just be one side of a relationship communicating while the other side slowly just runs away. So I'm not saying she's completely innocent, and well, after the ending of this show, she has no excuse, to be honest, but at a certain point, I did start feeling really bad for her. She felt like an unfortunate victim for most of the show, because she was clearly just being swindled around by both Makoto and Sekai, yet Makoto never clearly broke up with her. And yes, Kotonoha could have also walked away from this horrible relationship herself, but we clearly see that she gets bullied a lot and doesn't have anyone else to turn to, therefore developing an unhealthy obsession with Makoto, and it seems like she doesn't really see another way out of her shitty situation. So of course she's gonna get mentally messed up from all this, right? And Makoto, god, he is such a coward, the biggest coward of all time. And I know I've been repeating this, but 99% of the show's issues literally could have been solved if he straight up broke it up with Kotonoha early on in the show, but instead he drags her along the entire time, letting her live with the pain of not knowing what is actually going on between them. It's infuriating the amount of times we see this dude get confronted about something and he either just makes a terrible excuse or he just dodges the question completely. He is unbearable, man. Anyways, in the classroom, Sekai calls Makoto, but he's not responding to her anymore either. Nanami, the basketball club girl, yeah, remember her? She invites Sekai to a basketball club party because they needed a +1. Setsuna volunteers to look for Makoto in the meantime. And guess what, guys? Our knight in shining armor, Makoto, is seen getting together with Otome again. This man is unbelievable. I can't. He tells Otome, no matter what happens, everything is a pain in the ass. Like, okay, love and emotions and everything complicated that comes with any relationship are too much of a pain in the ass for him, I guess. He just wants clapping cheeks served up on him like a fucking silver platter, like he's some kind of king. Oh, God forbid he has to deal with emotions and communication and other normal human stuff. God forbid he isn't able to just say, it's gooning time, and just goon all around everywhere. And during all this, Setsuna overhears the two from outside. Apparently they were using the PE closet to do this. Meanwhile, Kotonoha is looking at kitchen knives. Oh dear God. Setsuna goes over to Makoto's place right before she leaves for France. She asks him what he was doing in the PE storage room. He's like, well, that's none of your business. And Setsuna is like, didn't I ask you to look out for Sekai? And he's like, well, it's not that I don't like her anymore, but Setsuna then tells Makoto that she kept this cheating incident a secret for Sekai's sake. But then this nasty ass dude is like, nah, you kept it a secret because you like me, right? I felt that kiss, that was real. And he goes in to kiss her. She tells him to break up with Otome like he did with Kotonoha, and tells him that he can do anything to her if he promises her that. Oh my god, what the fuck? That's gotta be some like real twisted ass, backwards ass logic if you ask me. Please continue to love and look out for my best friend. If you do that, I promise you, you can cheat on her with me. What? And also, how sad is it that this poor girl had to resort to selling herself out to get this piece of shit to like promise her to look out for her best friend? That's what? The basketball club party begins. Sekai and Nanami, the basketball club girl, are talking as Otome arrives as well, and she and Sekai have an awkward first meeting. In a surprise twist, during the party, the upperclassmen begin showing footage on a projector, and this is footage from the break room during the festival, fully capturing everything that happened in that room for everyone to see. Remember that video camera that I mentioned way earlier back when? That shit was set up to secretly record everything happening in that break room, which is actually genuinely a disgusting and heinous crime. What the fuck is wrong with these upperclassmen? They're like enjoying this bullshit while these poor clueless victims are forced to be exposed in front of the entire school. Nanami, having used the room with her boyfriend, looks extremely distraught, and understandably so. I think out of all the characters, she really didn't deserve the shit that happened to her. Sekai also then sees the footage of Otome getting together with Makoto in the break room before the bonfire dance as well. And before I move on, can we just like talk about this real quick? This entire recording thing is definitely illegal because, you know, it's filming non-consenting minors in illicit ways and then distributing that footage in some way, shape, or form. These upperclassmen have committed a horrific, disgusting crime. It's actually one of the most disgusting concepts that ultimately was only used to advance the garbage romance plot between Sekai and Makoto. It's just clearly one of the nastiest, most disgusting, deplorable things that I've ever seen happen in an anime. And the fact that this is just completely glossed over as a plot point and and nothing more makes me genuinely angry. And it's another reason why I refuse to take the show any seriously. Obviously hurt, Sekai begins to call Makoto as Setsuna takes the train to leave forever. Sekai and Kotonoha bump into each other, and Kotonoha asks Sekai where Makoto might be, but when Sekai looks into her eyes, she just looks so dead inside, which shocks Sekai. We now see that Nanami's reputation in the school seems to be in the gutter, as the footage or the rumors of the footage were spread throughout the school. Makoto notices that Sekai is not at school, and Sekai, who had just found out both about Makoto cheating on her and Setsuna moving to another country over text on the day that she left, is understandably very upset and lays in bed depressed. And yeah, it's still hard to look past that she herself contributed to these issues to begin with, but also Setsuna and Makoto really f***ed Sekai over with all of this, in my opinion. I actually thought Setsuna was endearing for a little bit as a character, especially during the school festival, but it turns out she's just as stupid as everyone else in the show. Who doesn't tell their best friend they're moving to another country until the day of, and she does it over text? What? Didn't even give her a chance to say goodbye. Plus, Setsuna herself also liked Makoto too, so now everything that she did for Sekai in the show is extremely questionable. Plus, she kissed Makoto twice and maybe, you know, got together with him before she left? I don't know. Even though Makoto is supposed to be her best friend's lover. Everything she did to help Sekai ultimately ended up just making everything way worse than before. I don't even think Makoto called Sekai his actual girlfriend, even a single time in the show. Clearly, Makoto only liked Sekai because she would let him do things that Kotonoha wouldn't, and that's it. Even after ditching Kotonoha's promise to dance with her at that bonfire and dancing with Sekai and literally making her believe that they were actually in love with each other, Makoto then went off and started messing around with literally everybody else and threw Sekai away just as easily as he threw Kotonoha away. It's just insanely demented in so many ways. Meanwhile, Makoto is now at a different girl's house, and this time he's with Hikari, the girl who had a crush on Taisuke? I have no idea how or when this happened, but I guess he's just jumping around now trying to clap all these different cheeks. Hikari then asks Makoto if he's not worried about Sekai, since she has been absent for school for so long that she can actually get in trouble for it. Makoto says, "It's too much work." God, what an absolute piece of shit. He just emotionlessly says, "Everything is just a pain." Yeah, everything, meaning all of these problems that you caused. And now that you're seeing all these problems actually come up, you just don't want to deal with any of it? How much of a little bitch ass can you be? I mentioned this way back earlier. Makoto reminds me of Light Yagami, but if Light was a gooner and was 1,000 times dumber, you can't tell sometimes if they're actually sociopathic human beings with no regard for life, or if they're just cocky idiots who just got swept up by having power of some kind. Now that Makoto has apparently unlocked some kind of divine riz where every girl just wants to be with him for no reason whatsoever, he's just going after every girl imaginable. As he goes through his phone, we just see a giant list of names. I'm assuming all of them are girls he's just trying to get with. I mean, Light got his death note where if you wrote someone's name in it, they'll die. And Makoto now has his gooner note where if he writes the name of a girl in it, he'll end up getting together with him. God, I can't believe the show is real. Kotonoha and Sekai are both extremely depressed because of Makoto. Kotonoha sees that she's blocked by Makoto again and brandishes her weapon in the dark. We also see a flashback to an argument between Sekai and Makoto about what happened at the fair. Sekai asks if she's not enough for Makoto, and she tells him she only has Makoto after Setsuna left. She pleads with Makoto to not leave her alone, but clearly that didn't go well. Anyways, Hikari goes to Sekai's place to check up on her. Obviously, Sekai doesn't really want to talk right now, and Hikari, the genius that she is, drops one of the dumbest lines I have ever heard an anime character utter in any show I've ever seen. She's like, "Hey, Makoto might cheat on you if you're not there." And that understandably makes Sekai shut the door on her. What kind of fucking idiot spirit took over her consciousness to say that kind of shit? Especially after you literally helped Makoto cheat on this girl. Otome is also looking for Makoto, who isn't answering her phone anymore. I guess Makoto is now playing the game of smash and dash at this point. The other bullies and she argue, and as Otome storms off, the other bullies all begin talking shit about her, which no surprise considering how shitty these bullies are as human beings. Then it's revealed that one of the other bullies also got together with Makoto too, and the other bullies are like, "Oh, we have to play catch up," which, what? Why is Makoto becoming some sort of like god that every girl has to get with? This is so stupid and goofy that it's impossible to take it any seriously. Anyways, all the bullies minus Otome go to Makoto's place to play some catch up, if you catch my drift. Holy mother of God. Kotonoha continues to unravel as she is literally pretending to talk to Makoto over the phone, even though the entire time the phone is saying, "This number is blocked." Fushi? Sekai reads back the messages Makoto sent her, things like "I like you more" and stuff like that, and continues to feel heartbroken. However, she then out of nowhere starts to vomit and show signs of pregnancy. She then goes back to school where Makoto doesn't even say a word to her. Sekai says she needs to talk to him for a moment and that it's important. She tells him that she might be pregnant, which shocks Makoto, who tries to worm his way out of this situation like every other time an actual real-life consequence hits him. But Sekai says that he's the only person she's been with, and he's like,
We're only in high school. Can't you do something about it?
taking absolutely zero accountability. And Sekai yells at him to think about it seriously, but then begins to cough and feel sick, going to the nurse's office. And while she's in the nurse's office and resting, she's happy. She's apparently happy that this is Makoto's child. Why is she smiling? Why is she happy about this? Bruh, I don't know. I'd be really mad, upset, and spiraling if I was in her situation, but what do I know? Maybe Makoto is just that much of a winner. Anyways, rumors begin to spread about the pregnancy, completely destroying Makoto's reputation throughout the school. Makoto whines and moans like,
What does she want me to do about it?
bruh, you reap what you sow. Hikari tells him that people will think she's weird for being around him and decides to cut him off completely. All of this makes Makoto leave the school early because he's a little bitch. At home, he's reading a bunch of books about children or taking care of kids. I don't actually know, but he gets really angry and he yells,
Why did she have to go and say that?
still blaming Sekai for everything that is literally of his own doing. He then gets a call from Otome and he switches up so fast. He's getting really happy and he's like,
Oh, I'm free. You can come over right now.
Otome arrives and looks really upset. She says that she needs to ask about something and Makoto immediately jumps to,
Is this about Sekai? It's not my fault.
Otome says, you used to not be someone who would say something like that. You were nicer in middle school. I've had enough. And she goes home, leaving Makoto alone again, cutting him off for good. Thank you. God, as much as I hated Otome, I am so glad she actually told him off to his face. Okay, so now both Makoto and Sekai both stop showing up to school. We see that Sekai is at Makoto's place again, cooking dinner as Makoto goes out to shop for something. I guess the pregnancy is really bringing them together, huh? Kotonoha continues to have less sentience than an animatronic from FNAF as she continues to talk over the phone to no one in front of a big Christmas tree. Dear God, this is just tragic. Makoto, while shopping for Sekai, the girl who's supposed to be pregnant with his kid, he calls Otome, who lets it go to voicemail. He then calls through his entire contact list and no one is answering him. And I'm like, good. Yes. Yes! And he's like, what's up with everyone? Why is no one picking up the phone? Why is this happening to me? And I'm just like, what are you, a fucking idiot? Bro, imagine trying to call a bunch of other girls while your potentially pregnant partner or whatever the hell she is, because they still never established their relationship with each other, is cooking at home. This is unbelievable. He ends up going through photos of Kotonoha as he sits down. Kotonoha then approaches him and asks him, you came for me, didn't you? I've been waiting all this time for you. As she looks extremely soulless, clearly not okay in any way. She continues to mutter stuff like, I have to become the best girl for you. I want to be a girlfriend who you're not embarrassed by. I want to be useful. Like a broken record. And seeing this, Makoto finally sees that she's not okay. He's like, what happened to you? Please stop this. You did this to her, man. You did this to her. Makoto begins to break down as Kotonoha says, I love you, Makoto. Makoto asks, why do you love someone like me? I didn't know. Please forgive me. And he cries and he apologizes. He then says, I love you to her again, I think. The audio was purposefully muted for this part. Holy shit, no way this just happened, right? Anyways, Kotonoha regains her regular eyes and hugs him back. Wow, she's back to normal. And this is happening while Sekai, who is again potentially pregnant with his baby and is cooking dinner for them at home. Anyways, while Sekai waits for Makoto to come back, Makoto and Kotonoha walk hand in hand. He ends up going to get dinner with Kotonoha and he argues with Sekai on the phone. Makoto is just like, just eat without me. And he continues to curve Sekai as she calls him out for lying. She asks him who he's with and if he's gonna cheat again. He continues to not tell the truth as Sekai tells him, please understand the situation that you're in right now. To which Makoto responds with, Kotonoha wouldn't say that to me. Holy shit. Sekai realizes that he's with Kotonoha right now and begins to get very upset. But Makoto just yells at her,
why did you get pregnant? Why did you have to say it in front of everyone?
And he tells her to just go home and stop pretending to be his girlfriend. Holy crap, there is no way this guy can become even more hateable. And you know what? I complain a lot about Makoto so far, but I think the one thing that I can't stand about him the most is that he is truly incapable of taking any accountability. He only apologizes when things are way too late. He blames Sekai for getting pregnant. He gets upset when everyone begins to ghost his just calls and says, "What's wrong with everyone else?" He just doesn't want to take any accountability for any of the insanely terrible mistakes he's made because it's quote-unquote a pain in the ass. And it's hard to believe that he truly felt any guilt or any bad about any of his actions. I don't even think he understands what he did wrong or where he messed up so badly. And the thing is, Kotonoha and Sekai both had moments that humanized them or helped me sympathize with their situations. But there was none of that with Makoto. He's just turned into a I wanna just fuck everything around me machine with no emotions or regard for others. How can I feel any sympathy towards that kind of character? It's not like we know what's happening in his mind or what kinds of struggles he might be facing personally. He's just a horny loser who lets his ego and dick do all the talking and dictating of his life. There is nothing of substance behind this character. I guess you can call this character archetype the dictator. Haha, get it? It's funny, okay? It's funny. I'm trying to keep myself sane through all of this, okay? Leave me alone. As the call ends in disaster, the two decide to head to Makoto's place as Sekai witnesses them together on a train. Kotonoha is at Makoto's house as Makoto walks in the kitchen to prepare some tea. He sees that all the plates and food are all over the place due to Sekai's anger, which is honestly understandable. Makoto cleans up the mess as he ponders about Sekai's words earlier. Makoto says in an inner monologue now that he was being selfish. I guess finally acknowledging some of his mistakes, some of them, but it's way too little, way too late at this point. Also, him saying I've been selfish is probably the understatement of all time. Sekai begins to head back to Makoto's apartment. When she gets there, Kotonoha opens the door and Sekai slaps her this time, getting pissed about why Kotonoha is opening the door for him. Sekai yells at him about how she thought he broke up with Kotonoha and now that she's pregnant, he's just gonna throw her away. Sekai then yells at Kotonoha, accusing her that she invited Makoto. Kotonoha then begins to fight back against Sekai, saying that Sekai was the one that seduced Makoto in order to get him away from Kotonoha in the first place. Sekai responds that they loved each other for real, and Kotonoha says, well, that's what you wanted to think, huh? God damn, that is brutal. It's not funny, but like, holy smokes. She then brings up Setsuna and everything she did behind Sekai's back, but Sekai had no idea about any of it. Kotonoha tells her that Setsuna also liked Makoto, and she wasn't actually trying to do anything for Sekai, but rather, she was only doing all of this because Setsuna herself liked Makoto. Sekai says, Setsuna is my best friend. She wouldn't do such a thing. Kotonoha brings up their past conversations about understanding Makoto's side, and she's like, I understand now. Makoto's been by my side, waiting for me. Kotonoha says she won't waver anymore, as Makoto hugs her back, and the two start kissing in front of Sekai, which quickly devolves into an extremely uncomfortable and intimate full-on makeout session, and Sekai watches this and screams for them to stop. Oh dear God, no! While the scary music ramps up in the background, and good God, sorry. I really shouldn't have been laughing at all of this. But this entire scene felt like such a fever dream. I'm sorry, I just can't help it, man. This is so stupid. Sekai, as she walks home, completely breaks down as she begins seeing visions of Setsuna, blaming her for everything that's happened so far. If Sekai had never sat next to Makoto or tried to introduce Kotonoha to him, none of this would have happened in the first place. Sekai then says, Makoto said he liked me and no one else, as she continues to break down. The next morning, Sekai gets a text message from Makoto and begins to read it happily until she sees the contents of the message. Kotonoha knows a clinic that is good for you. You should go there and get yourself checked out. God, this is just absolutely brutal. At school, Makoto gets a message from Sekai who says that she wants to talk to him one-on-one and that she'll go to his house. On the rooftop, Kotonoha and Makoto talk about Sekai saying, good thing she's going to the clinic and stuff like that. Jesus Christ. Makoto then tells Kotonoha, I want to spend more time like this with you. I feel bad because I'm such a pushover, but from now on, I'll only focus on you. God, I don't even know what to say anymore. After school, Sekai goes over to Makoto's house and the two sit down and they just sit silently. Makoto offers to go pour tea, but Sekai volunteers to do so instead. So then Makoto goes to another room to check his phone, and Sekai looks over menacingly, holding a real-life Minecraft iron sword. Makoto sees that Sekai had just sent him a very menacing text. It reads, I'm sorry, and after a long scroll down to the bottom, it says, goodbye. He turns around as Sekai then begins to attack him with the weapon, and he topples over in pain. She calls him cruel as he continues to get viciously attacked. He's getting flashbacks to everything that's happened in the show as he continues to get attacked. He says Sekai's name and she stops in shock from what she just did. At this point though, it's too late and Makoto is dead. Sekai obviously freaks out over the literal crimes she just committed and she escapes. Later, Kotonoha comes back to Makoto's place to find him dead. Sekai then gets a message from Makoto's phone saying, I'll be on the roof. Sekai goes to the school rooftop to see Kotonoha waiting for her. She says, how was the clinic? And Sekai is like, I wouldn't go to a clinic recommended by you. Kotonoha then accuses her of lying about the pregnancy pregnancy to keep Makoto for herself. She says Sekai can't carry his child because Makoto is Kotonoha's boyfriend. Sekai then says, I wanted to be his girlfriend too, so I just let him do whatever. So why is this happening? Kotonoha tells Sekai that Makoto is actually right there, referring to a duffel bag on the bench. Sekai opens the bag to see Makoto's head and vomits. Kotonoha takes out a Minecraft iron sword in real life, saying, let me see if you're telling the truth. Sekai also then takes out her own Minecraft iron sword in real life, but Kotonoha outmaneuvers her and violently unalives Sekai. And even more psychotically, Kotonoha then actually checks to make sure if she was pregnant, saying, so you were lying. There is no baby inside of you. Holy mother of God, this just went from 0 to 100,000 real quick right here, man. What the hell? Anyways, the last scene of this show is Kotonoha laying on a yacht, holding and hugging Makoto's head, smiling. She says, we're finally together, Makoto, and the show comes to a close. Yep, that is school days. I mean, it definitely took me a moment to seriously process what just happened in the last 10 minutes of the show. This ending felt so out of nowhere and so absolutely insane. Like, the pure shock of just like, what is going on? I just couldn't help but just laugh a little bit while watching it. This whole ending feels so stupid to me because it feels like it exists more for shock value rather than trying to tell an actual story of any kind. I'd say it was one of the dumbest endings to any show I've ever seen. It wasn't satisfying. It was just horrific in the worst way imaginable. And this might be a controversial take. I don't really know. But to be honest, I think Makoto dying is truly just a waste of an ending. I believe Makoto dying was just an easy way out. He shouldn't have died, considering he never had to actually learn his lessons or live with the consequences of his terrible actions. I think it would have been more satisfying to watch Makoto actually get his comeuppance through actually having to live with the mess that he has caused. But no, he just dies, and therefore he can never actually recognize the horrible things he's done to other people throughout the show or ever learn how to take accountability for his own terrible actions. I also feel like this ending in general just completely ruined the entire story that came before it. Not saying that it was any good until this point, but all of the different relationship between the characters, or like, you know, the actual crime that happened with the recording of the break room, all of it is just completely washed away into nothingness, thrown away in lieu of having a shocking ending that's supposed to come off as some kind of deep message or whatever. But no, I think this ending is complete trash. It is twisted and it's shocking, yeah, but it's not very good writing in my opinion. Kotonoha very quickly switches up from an unfortunate victim into, well, actual unaliver and psychopath who, you know, literally cut off you know what I'm talking about. She violently unalives Sekai and, you know, checks to see if was really pregnant or not. By the end, she's just a full-on yandere. She's just on a yacht hugging Makoto's head. You can't make this shit up. Like, I felt bad for her to a certain point, but this ending completely takes away any sympathy I had for her in the show. I think she is a tragic victim because I do think she went through some horrible stuff in the show, but that doesn't really excuse turning into an insane-ass psycho unaliver who hugs her boyfriend's head in Minecraft. You know what I mean? And Sekai's character is one that I feel very conflicted about. I think her being upset by the end of the show is pretty understandable. She's going through a pregnancy scare. She's getting thrown away by the guy she loves. Her best friend moved to a different country without telling her. And she also learned that her best friend kissed the same guy that she loved. I mean, she was going through it, man. But that also doesn't really mean that it's okay to unalive someone, you know? I mean, she did do that to Makoto. There has to be a bunch of other solutions to her issues that didn't involve taking a life. And also, again, we can't forget that a lot of the stuff stemmed from Sekai's own actions. I think Sekai is both a product and a perpetrator of her own downfall. She played herself trying to play everyone else in the beginning. Plus, we still don't really know if Sekai was actually pregnant or not, since we never did see her use an actual test. I believe that she was convinced that she was pregnant, and I'm sure all of the stress that she was feeling from literally everything that was happening in her life didn't help her either. So I think it really could have been either or, but the reality of the situation is this: she did believe that she was pregnant and therefore acted out of emotional desperation and uncertainty, which that part is understandable. But again, I can't agree with the actions that she took at the end of the show. And honestly, as much as I hate Makoto and I love to slap him across the face 100 times, I didn't necessarily enjoy enjoy watching him getting so viciously unalived either. Yeah, he sucks, but that doesn't mean that I'll relish watching him die. He was a high schooler. He was an idiot, and it would make more sense to let him live with the consequences of his mistakes. His death scene was just genuinely horrifying to watch because it was so merciless and just truly one of the most violently depicted anime scenes that I've ever seen, which is saying a lot. I was cheering when people were starting to ghost him and cut him off and like talk shit about him in the hallways because yeah, I think he deserved all that, but I didn't enjoy watching him die. On that note, I think Sekai's death was even more horrifying. It's just such a horrifying thing to imagine what Kotonoha did to her at the end of the show. It's just terrible. Let's just say that all three of them were just severely mentally ill and fucked up people, and therefore didn't have the capacity to react rationally to a very tough situation, which ended in this absolute disaster of an ending. I don't know. Like, that's the only way I can rationalize this, right? All I know is that everyone in this show sucks in their own way, and there are absolutely no winners in this anime. I think the story is stupid and pointless. I don't give a shit about Makoto or his desires of romance or intimacy. The characters are extremely unlikable, annoying, dumb as hell, or all of the above. So many of the conflicts could have been solved peacefully and way more efficiently, but these characters are incapable of critical thinking. And sure, they're high schoolers, so they're dumb. They don't know what they're doing. They're still young and clueless. Okay, but then why are they constantly being throughout the show? Make it make sense. And the break room in that entire plotline is so criminal that I don't even know how to react to it anymore. School Days is not a show I can even bother taking any seriously. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but this is just how I feel about this show. I don't even want to bother giving this a score. Anyways, that's it for this video. If you watched to this point, thank you so much for watching until the end. I really hope you enjoyed this video, despite it being such a mess. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe for more anime content. As usual, a huge shout out to my members. This would not be possible without you guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will see you in the next video that I decide to make. Peace out.